So, in the episode you're about to see, we were on location in Dallas. We brought all our cameras, we brought our soundboard, we tested everything. But when we looked at the footage, Lior's camera was totally out of focus. It was dark. It was basically unusable. But we saw this as an opportunity. Instead of throwing the episode away, we took the lemons, we made some lemonade, and we used some AI tools for Lior's part. So when you see Lior, it is AI Lior, but his actual voice on location there. It's going to look a little bit different, but it was a lot of fun putting this together. So without further ado, here's the episode. All right, welcome to another episode of Do Human Work, the podcast that looks at the future of cybersecurity through the lens of AI. I am your host, Nate Burke, joined as always by
Lior. Hi, Nate. How are you?
I am excellent, and we are here in Dallas again. We are in this grand ballroom library kind of place.
This is actually a fantastic location. I love it.
It is very cool. And for our guest this week, we have something we have never had before. And that is someone that is in a Hall of Fame.
Yes, that's
we have
true.
never had someone in a Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And we have it now. And so welcome to our guest, Mignona. And thank you so much for coming out here to join us on this episode of the podcast.
And well, thank you. Thank you for coming to Dallas, Texas, and recognizing the uniqueness of our architecture. It is beautiful here. And when you want to deviate a little bit, join me in Louisiana.
Okay. Louisiana's next.
All right, it's on the list.
Alligators.
She likes to challenge us, so...
All right, we keep taking this on the road, so we'll go there next. All right, why don't we start off... Well, first of all, you are the CISO for Infor, correct?
That is correct.
So
yes.
what does Infor do? Give our audience an idea of what the company does.
So Infor builds systems that actually help companies throughout the world operate their businesses. And so that includes the financial systems, the manufacturing, the HR systems, and also even how you process your accounts receivable and payments.
Okay, perfect. And now Infor, and just in the little research I've done leading up to this episode, it seems like AI is a piece of what Infor does as well, correct?
It is. So Infor uses it in its product to help companies actually make wise business decisions and run more efficiently. As well as we use it even within cyber to look at how we're managing ourselves to make sure that we're protected.
So that's interesting because in a lot of cases we've talked to people where we're talking about either their use of AI within security ops, but it must be different for a chief information security officer of a company that is actively using AI, but also using AI in the defense side of things. So how do you balance the way that your company is using AI, adopting AI, and then what you decide to do on the defender side?
Well, we want to be leading edge on how we're using it in the company because our customers depend on it to grow. Internally, we want to use it to make sure that we provide the best security services to our customers so that we have that trust with them.
This is fascinating because I think that many companies, when we are speaking with them, the first thing when they're thinking about AI is really about revenue, how to generate more revenue. And it's fascinating for me to see a company that's thinking ahead and saying, hey, we're not just going to use it in order to generate new revenue. We're going to use it in every aspect of the business in order to make sure that we're generating new revenue, but we're protecting our customer better. And we're doing kind of everything that we can in order to leverage this new, basically, capability that exists right now. And we like to engage with people that are thinking ahead. We call them the Chief, instead of Information, Innovation Security Officers. And we believe that you're one of them. So not just the Hall of Fame, innovation as well.
Oh, well, that's cool because exactly, if you look back on my career and you look at the career path, it keeps gravitating towards the introduction of technologies. And so I literally just got through talking about starting my career in telecommunications. Dallas, Texas is headquartered for AT&T, but also I started in another company that was moved into Verizon, but it was called GTE, and then I went into Nortel Networks for 9 years. The Texas marketplace is built on strong telecommunications at the onset of the internet era. So then we go into the internet era, and then you move on through the different stages of technology, which brings us here. it's the merging of all of the technologies together that help us build the next wave of what we're doing with AI.
Yeah, I think that some people are thinking about this wave of AI is almost kind of the reborn of the internet. Or some people are saying, hey, I remember when the first browser came out, I'm feeling the same about AI. What is your take about it? It's like how new it is, how much is going to change everything that we know so far?
Well, I almost think when I'm hearing that illustration, I'm thinking about when I used to use a control key on the computer and then I had to use a mouse. That was like groundbreaking for me. I did not want to use the mouse. So do I think it's groundbreaking? Absolutely. Why? It gives us the chance to actually focus what we have through all of our experiences on more strategic thoughts. So we get to now pause and think about what we're doing and where we're going next, because AI is doing all the analysis based on the wealth of all of our experiences, so we can leverage that to then think above and beyond. So now we have thinking time. If you look back at reports on how the human mind works at the workplace, typically at work, we're going back-to-back meetings. And so you're changing content every 15 to 30 minutes. And with that rapid pace of changing content and what you're talking about, by the end of the day at 4 or 5, you feel like the need to decompress. And so you then go and do something, we used to call it veg or veg out. Now we get to actually have the time to think. So with that comes new ideas, new innovation that the AI has been the enabler because it gives us a foundation of data. I was thinking about this the other day. Our data analysis used to be where you had a piece of paper and you would tally 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Well, now we don't have to do that because AI is doing it, and then it's merging this data together, and it's given the stories and the trends of what we need to know. So we have it at our fingertips to go, wow, this is what this is telling us. How can we use it?
So I think that is the perfect segue to the question we asked everybody. And this is the magic wand question, since we're talking about time. So we ask everybody, if I could wave a magic wand and give you back 25% of your time, what would you do with it?
If I had 25% of my time back, if it's related to work, I would dream. And I would dream about what we could do. So if you think about security people, our number one thing is we don't want to be hacked. So I would dream about how can we actually stop that from even happening. I spent years, in fact, if you look at my career, I was one of the early security people in general, and then add the fact that I'm a female, way early person. And all we did was just analyze, and work with attacks. Someone brought it up to my attention the other day. We used something, we dealt with NIMDA and Blaster and I Love You virus, and then SQL Slammer, and then it goes on through to now where we're dealing with a lot of different threat actor groups. But we never saw the problem. All we did is run scans, and we cracked passwords, and we looked for vulnerabilities, and we just plug. We got into a moment of how do we plug holes, and plug holes for the next thing you read about. And so you start reading about like we were reading about SharePoint this weekend. How do we make sure that's plugged up? Instead, now we don't have to think about that because we'll have the system do it for us. And so it changes the whole playing ground where the threat actor now won't be able to get in because those holes won't be there because we've already got them auto-healed or auto-remediated. So instead, we can start thinking about security in a different way. And we don't know what that way is yet, but we have the time to dream about what security turns. And maybe security can even become just part of our day, and it's not a discipline.
Right.
When we're thinking about it is, we're trying to think, usually we're saying, it's like, hey, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But in this case, I think that 3 years from now, everything will be different. So I think that the concept of L1, L2, L3, the concept of, hey, bringing everything to one place and then trying to sift through the information, a lot of the things that today we're doing with people, and I know that you have a big team, I think that this concept will disappear. We're going to free up those people to be much more strategic to the day-to-day. And as you said, and you said it very well, it's like enable them to actually think and be creative in our approach to security. And I love it, but it will be interesting to hear your take about kind of how the future of the upcoming 3 years, 5 years is going to look like.
Well, the first thing that pops to my mind is remember when we were children and we didn't have problems. We just thought and we created. And so it puts us back in that happy child mode, thinking and being creative. And so we think then we're able to shift our minds to what do we really need to solve for? And so we get to solve for, let's say, health issues or other real problem issues, like you think of the autonomous car. So what comes next after the autonomous car? So you start getting to have that thinking time to grow and innovate. So in 3 years from now, we're going to have some cool technology. I spent a lot of time reading of what the next inventions are and freeing up our mind. Now, what are they going to be? I don't know, because I would love to see, but I certainly have my ideas.
When you answered the question, and I was purposely vague on the 25% of your time, and I didn't say like it had to be at work, but it seems like a lot of what you do is in the community, is doing things like judging what you did today. So if I took that same question and focus it in another way, if it wasn't just at work, if you had 25% of your time in general, you yourself, what would you do with it?
If I had free time, well, it's kind of like work, though. I am very passionate about water mammals, and I would figure out how to solve the issue of fish nets. And so I start thinking, okay, why does a whale get caught in a fish net? How does that happen? So the fisherman wants to go catch fish, but he uses a net to catch fish. So what can we give him that he doesn't have to do that? And then how can we enable the whale to live? And then this morning I was reading about sandcastles. When you build a sandcastle and then the baby turtles hatch and they go out towards the water, they fall into the sandcastle and they die, the hole of where the sandcastle was. Okay, so you start thinking about, well, okay, how can you build a sandcastle where you don't have a deep hole where the turtle's going to go in it? And so you start thinking about how to solve the problems of nature. And so that's where my mind would go. And that's actually going there now anyway.
That's amazing. And I just love how that demonstrates the way you're thinking about things, right? It's those second and third level problems that get really interesting instead of just saying, never mind, these are unsolvable, right?
CISO, Hall of Fame. It's when you review your career, it's like company after company. I think that you went in, did a revolution or evolution, depends on the situation. Can you share with us a little bit about your career and kind of the type of...
And especially in different industries, right? Where we see a lot of people like me, right? I've stayed in cybersecurity over and over and over again, but you've spanned multiple industries, and so they feel like they'd all be very, very different. Yet you've thrived, and in fact, does the CISO Hall of Fame come with a jacket like the NFL, and do you get a ring? Like, that is the coolest thing. So I'd love to hear what's different, and then also like, how did you find out about this award and this accolade?
Well, let's start with the award. I had no idea about it.
I didn't know it existed, but it's the coolest idea.
I did have a gentleman call me that's been watching my career. I didn't know people watched my career
Apparently
either.
people watching.
Yeah, it's like, but he goes, I've been watching your career and we would, with your permission, nominate you for this award. And I was so honored. I did not know about it. And I never in my entire life thought that this would happen to me. And so I did, and I documented my career path. And then here I am, I won. I never knew I'd be at this point and have worked in 7 Fortune 50 companies. I worked at Amazon, AWS, one of the world's largest companies, and then Bank of America, large financial, and then Aetna, which is now CVS Healthcare, large healthcare company. I had no idea. But let's go back to my beginning. My beginning is a small country town in Louisiana. And my dad, fortunately, taught electronics. And so as a little girl, I would go with him to teach class. And we just plug things in, and he would let me talk on a ham radio at night and, tell people Merry Christmas at midnight, and then take me to fix televisions and pay me $0.25 to go do that. So I grew up, 5 and 6 years old doing that. He taught electronics, second person to ever write a book on electronics. And he shared with me the story of at school, he walked into the computer room and then another person walked in after him, and the computers shut down because of the heat of a body. And this was at Louisiana Tech. So I grew up hearing those stories and going to conferences where he shared with me about what a microprocessor chip could do. So that is how I heard about technology. And then I go in and I applied for jobs back when you circled jobs in the back of newspapers. And I graduated, didn't know how to apply for a job, so I just was circling them. I had a job for, being a waitress all the way to, working at the city of Shreveport as a revenue auditor. Well, I got the revenue auditor job. And in that job, within a few weeks, I met what's called a general auditor. And I asked him, what did that do? And I said, I think I can do that. And he goes, yes, you can. Because he was at ExxonMobil as a general auditor, and then he moved to the city of Shreveport. And that's where it started, learned a technology called Dial 280, where I would do hexadecimal dumps and count out fields and query databases. That was cool because it was investigative. Found a list of passwords, 3-character passwords. That's where I knew you could hack systems. And this was all in the late 89, 91, 92 period. So they didn't have security. It wasn't called security back then, but I was what was called an EDP auditor. And I was actually doing that and investigating. And from there, I got my master's at LSU, I was recruited by Comerica Bank, moved to Dallas, Texas, and then a company called GTE said, hey, we need some IT auditors. They recruited me, did that, learned the difference between a public infrastructure and a private infrastructure. So the public infrastructure turns out to be the whole world and how it's connected and how we communicate, and learned about DMS 100 switches. And oh my goodness, I learned how to break into those. And so it's just springboard from there into Nortel Networks and Bank of America for 9 years, PepsiCo, Aetna, and then AIG, did a rotation through there. And then I met with someone and said, he goes, I want to do something really creative. He goes, I said, can you help me get a job at AT&T? It was Ed Amoroso. He was the former CISO at AT&T. He goes, no, because you would be bored. Won't you try AWS? And so I went to AWS, studied, passed the interview process. So I went to AWS, and then it springboard into going into NetApp, where I could then go from AWS to also adding Google to my portfolio of knowledge, and then on into Infor. We're working with SaaS applications.
This is fascinating, specifically when I think that you have a very unique perspective, because you go back in time and you think about this transistor that your father was talking about. And I'm thinking about where we are right now. And I'm feeling that we are holding this transistor. We don't understand that thing can be like a massive processing power and a computer few years from now. But I think that the big difference between then and now is like, while it took many years for that thing to evolve, and it's like there is kind of the load that it's like the more load that it's like every year it's like, and I'm thinking about it. I think that we are now on an exponential path, or I call it the non-linear path, that AI will enable us to jump and skip steps. And I'm thinking about kind of security and how we're securing an organization. And I think that we're going to run fast. But another thing that I'm kind of thinking, while we're thinking about us and what we're going to do and how great it's going to be, I'm thinking about the bad guys. And I'm thinking about kind of how they're going to use AI in order to attack us. And when those two worlds are kind of meet each other, this has become very interesting, very fast. And I think that we're not kind of thinking or not taking into account that these days like become closer and closer and closer and closer, that the bad guy is going to just like leverage it in every attack that they're doing. I don't think that we see it yet. I think that we see the beginning of it, but I think that we are kind of in inning number one of a very big, race that we are going to have to win, because if not, we're going to have different problems.
I think the cartoons figured that out for us. If you go back and look at, was it Marvel? Is it Marvel, or how do you say it? Marvel.
Yeah.
You got the bad guy fighting the good guy.
Yeah.
And so you got the bad robots fighting the good robots. And always at the end, the good wins.
Yes.
So it becomes evil and bad. So I think the same thing with AI. Realistically, we're smart people. There's a lot more smart people than mean people.
Yeah.
And I call them mean people with evil intent.
Yeah.
And so with us training the models to start fighting for us, we start gaining an advantage.
Yeah.
But we've got to start training
True.
them to fight for us.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that it was a point in time 10 years ago that we started to use machine learning in order to do prediction of bad malware. And that was a point in time that basically the next antivirus was born, and everybody was surprised that you can just throw any malware on it and it will discover and say, hey, 95% this is a virus or a malware. But it couldn't explain why the thing is bad, or it just give you a score. I think that what we can do today is the fact that we can say, hey, this is a bad operation, this is a bad situation, but I think that the nice thing about it, we can actually explain with AI why the AI decided that something is bad or something is good. And that thing, I think, eventually free up people the most and give them kind of the freedom, because they don't need to trust the 95%. They can actually see the work. And if you can see the work, you can validate the work, then you can say, okay, now I understand why the AI make this decision versus that decision. And I think that that's kind of a big shift that we're going to see in the way that we're leveraging and using AI.
Yeah, so I was listening to that. My mind drifted to mutations, and so you think of the viruses and the worms and the things that we went on in the early times. But earlier than that, it was just like traditional. Let me see if you've got a hole in your environment, break in. And so you start thinking about that, and look at what we do in the medical field on solving diseases and viruses. I think the thought processes we have within that sector can be heavily leveraged in the thought processes that we have with AI. And we should look at both disciplines on how to accomplish that next goal of protecting ourselves.
Yeah, I can't help myself by saying self-healing systems. Because at the end of the day, if we can create a system that actually understands the threat, evolve fast enough in order to put kind of the right mitigation and patch in place and basically evolve the environment dynamically, then we're going to be in a completely different situation. And then I think that we're going to reach to a point that it doesn't matter that there is vulnerability. We can understand them, understand if somebody exploit them, and then basically do something about it fast enough. And then basically we have a dynamic environment. But then good luck to try to figure out what's really going on.
Yeah, so we have to keep our data and our systems healthy.
Yeah.
So we have to immune them to those poisoned models.
Oof. Yeah, that's another big topic of. Yes, because we already see it, by the way. When we see kind of different AI that was trained on different set of data, it's not, there is no magic. It's like if it was trained and it's biased to a certain degree, then it will be biased forever. And it's like up to us to figure it out and guide it or change it back to kind of be not evil, to be good.
We talked a lot about your career and all of the different opportunities that brought you to those different companies and different industries and that sort of thing. And coupled with, I know you do a lot in terms of mentorship and giving back to those that are early on in their career. So I guess my question for you is, just looking at those that are looking to enter into a career in cybersecurity now, given where we are today, given that AI is a big piece of it, given just where we are overall, how would you advise someone that is starting off, in the same kind of situation where you were early days? What advice would you give them? What if they said, should I get into cybersecurity in the first place? Like, I'm sure you get this a lot from people, and I'm just curious what you tell them.
I had this young person on LinkedIn say, how do I get into cybersecurity? And so person after person shared courses and ways to network. And all I did was say, try me. And so she sent me a personal message, and she's getting ready to announce now a really cool job at a large financial institution. So I'm so proud of her. I did hire her at NetApp, hired her to do security awareness. And then when she announces her next move, it's going to be groundbreaking. So the reason I share that story is because you've got to find that person to give you a chance. Now, early career people don't know how to find that person to give you a chance. I don't even think they really want to find that person because they get shy and they don't want to really have to dig into the work. But it's fun. I've had this discussion with many people about the corporate world versus being an entrepreneur versus going to do something about working with the Peace Corps. And so the generation, and I was in that group at one point, wanted to do the things that are, we want to save people, we want to save things, and we still do. But security gives you a chance to do that as well. And so I put it into perspective with them. And do you have to have a degree in computer or cybersecurity? No, you do not. I work with many people who don't have degrees, my favorite person, Mike Martin, who majored in biology. I talked to him the other day, and he's like got 3 biology degrees. I'm like, oh my gosh, and one was neuroscience. Really blew me away. But it gave him a thought process that is different than the thought process you get when you study how to program Python. You need the multiple different thought processes and get people together, and then you can harness that creativity on where you're going next. That's the benefit. So to the person that's getting into the field, all you've got to do is try. Now, many doors close because the automation that's built into looking at the resumes for buzzwords and all of that. So it's like, how do you bypass that? Well, one way is to look at what those buzzwords are and then align them to what you really do. So, for example, time management. We all have time management because we had to show up to class on time. And so you have to just put it into perspective of what their frame of reference is versus what our frame of reference is. As leaders, we sometimes forget that part. We're looking for ready-made talent, and the talent instead has to be developed.
Yeah, we are a big believer. Many people are speaking with us about, hey, AI will take kind of the L1 analyst, so then we're not going to have a career path to grow those people. And actually what we think here is that we have a different approach, is AI can actually teach you how to be an L1 very quickly, very good. You don't need to spend years and years, and people can skill up very quickly with the right guidance. And basically, I think that will enable us to have more people that will use their creativity and use kind of their ability to do a very complex investigation while almost bypassing kind of this L1 period. I don't say that it's 0, but it can shrink from many years to a year, let's say. And I think that we see it in doctors, that we can train doctors relatively quickly, and they're not staying in the same job. They are kind of moving and moving and moving and doing a stage and basically becoming better and better. So I believe that in a weird way in security, we can leverage AI actually to skill up more people and to solve kind of the problem that we have with, new people coming into the field almost.
I came from a family of educators, and I myself was on a board with Capella University, and you start thinking about education and learning. So let's take what we're talking about, and let's put it in context of school and English. I didn't have to learn how to write a sentence or a paragraph to actually read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight when I was in the university. And so it's just the same thing. It's just an evolution of what we really need to learn so that we can be successful. So now we're accelerating what we need to learn. We're skipping a couple of steps. The Python developers are not learning assembler first, so they're learning Python. So
point.
you just start thinking about it. I'm not learning binary code, 0s and 1s. And so it's just the next step.
I couldn't say it better, because I think that every time that the new wave of technology coming, people are afraid. But then a year or 2 years after, they realize exactly what you said. It's like nobody learned assembly today. Everybody's already moved to a much more evolved language. And I think that the same will happen with AI. It's like people will start vibe coding, and I think that there is a point in time that people are not going to code anymore in the same sense that we're literally writing word after word.
Well, let me ask you a question. Did you learn how to use a loom before you put on a shirt?
No. Exactly. And this is a nice one. But this is a great point.
Yeah.
And I think that we should not be afraid. My point of view is we have to lean into it. And as we're leaning into it, and again, we're going to learn how to use it, but eventually the benefit is going to be bigger than anything else that we have right now.
Yes, I think AI is going to have the light bulb turn on without me having to go and learn about, circuitry.
Right.
It's halfway there. So my 5-year-old, he is entering into every room and speaking with the walls, and saying, Alexa this, Siri that. And one day we went into a hotel and started speaking with the walls, and he couldn't understand why the walls are not responding back. So I needed to explain that we're not there yet, but halfway there.
We're definitely not here with a chandelier above us.
No, this is a completely different setting. But I like the setting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we good?
I think we're good. Is there anything that you wanted to cover we didn't?
Anything that you want to add, like AI or...
By the way, that felt like about 5 minutes. It was 31. That's been 32 minutes already.
Oh, wow. No, I think
That's
we're
like
fine because we'll
it's-
cut little bits and pieces.
Oh, yeah, all of it.
But
yeah.
I like the part about the loom.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's a
I
good
like it.
argument.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's a very good one.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you so much for being on this episode. Thanks for welcoming us to Dallas. This was a lot of fun, a great conversation, and just thanks so much for being on Do Human Work.
Well, how did you find this place?
So I'll tell you the story. We are basically we're here in this hotel, and we asked them to find a nice room for us. So they allocate a room over there, and we went in, and the room basically looked like
We'll have to show you the room.
yeah, every hotel room. But we made a mistake. So instead of going there, we went here, and we saw this kind of beautiful setting. So instead of asking permission, we said, we're going to just park ourselves here. And here we are. And I think that they're happy that we're here filming this beautiful room that nobody knew that exists here.
I know, it's gorgeous. I hope you can get a camera, just the artwork. It's just gorgeous. So
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us on a short notice. But now, I think that it's fantastic to have you on the show.
well, I'm excited to be here and thank you.